Now, usually when I interface with MongoDB and I want to just run things, I'm going to use the command line. The GUI is a nice tool if you want to poke around, but it's not great for cutting and pasting and you can't build scripts. So let's go into the command line and poke around. So you run Mongo, you get a little prompt like this. The first thing I'd like to do is see what databases there are. So show DBS will show me the list of databases. You'll notice at the bottom is my tiny little database, MyDB, that I created from the Go code. And then if I want to use that database, I can do use MyDB, and we can do show collections. Show collections shows that we have a single collection called person in that database. And if you want to know what database you're currently using, you can do DB, and it just prints out the current database that you're in, which is MyDB. We can go and use a new database to create a new one. So let's do use mines. And we've switched to mines. Now, this doesn't actually create a database until you actually do something in the database. You can create a collection. Let's create named mines. And now we actually have a collection. You'll notice that the response back is a piece of JSON from these commands. And that's also what you'd see if you were doing stuff from a web page. Now you're actually sitting in a JavaScript interpreter here. So we can tell that by doing something like quit, which shows us that it's a function with native code. But yeah, we're sitting in a JavaScript interpreter, and now if we want to, in our mines, get our collection named, we want to insert something, we can do db named, and we're going to pass it a JavaScript object here. There actually is an Acme mine. If I type insert correctly, that will help tremendously. There we go. And that actually inserts one of these things into a mine. Now, if we do some other mine like site3, and we can actually say that we want to have an owner for this. Okay. This points out one of the interesting things about being schemaless is that we don't have to add a column or decide what we're going to store before we store it. In fact, we don't even have to keep the ones we already have. We can just create a new document that just doesn't have that in it and have something with no name at all. So this allows us to create things. Now, you have some commands in here that are probably pretty dangerous, like you can actually drop an entire schema or an entire collection in a single command. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And there's nothing stopping you from inserting all sorts of data that you don't want into the wrong one. So be careful with which one you're inserting to, or you get weird results. It turns out that weird results capability of inserting things with no schema and no checking is not really an advantage when you actually come to looking at maintaining code, which is mostly what we do in the real world. We adapt and maintain code. We don't build new things. And this is cool. Schemaless is real cool for building a new thing, but when it comes time to actually verify that you've made changes correctly and that you're inserting what you're supposed to, it's not such a cool thing. So having something that would actually check the schema and reject things or validate them would be useful. And that's not something that Mongo has. I've put together a cheat sheet, okay, that is also going with this lecture out to all of you. And I'm going to work through some more stuff, but at this point, after I've created and inserted some things, I want to take a look at the same code inside the Go code and match it up and work forward from there. And to get out, you can run the quit function, which I showed you as a function a second ago.